Catalyst 2030 is a movement of social entrepreneurs and innovators embracing collective action to achieve the SDGs by the deadline of 2030. Our 1,500 members are active in 197 countries. By emphasizing collaborations, Catalyst 2030 is leveraging the power of the collective to accelerate real change in the lives of billions of people around the globe. What do our members say about Catalyst?
Catalyst 2030 is an invaluable global community of impact entrepreneurs.
Our relationship with Catalyst 2030 has really taught us the power of co-creation.
Join Catalyst 2030 and network, bond, and collaborate with our family members.
And I like the spirit of bringing change makers together to share and learn from each other.
Catalyst really understands the transformative nature of collaboration.
It's also a platform that can give us new tools and resources.
Catalyst 2030 has put my work on steroids.
But most importantly, to come up with solutions that are practical, ways where we can really make things happen, because social entrepreneurs are doers.
Are you a catalyst? Join us to achieve the SDGs.
Hi everybody from anywhere in the world you're dialing in from. Glad to see you here. I actually see some of you, that's wonderful. I see common faces, known faces, foreign faces. Super. This is the session, the do's and don'ts from a funding perspective. And you are all interested in learning more. I am interested in learning a lot more about it. And I'm very proud to have these wonderful guests, Amber Riedel, Sarah Butke, and Ingo Dahm, who will talk about their different perspectives on the funding. For me, this is something that has to do with impact investing. It's a term that's being used. And some people have the different definitions of it. For a common understanding of what impact investing means, we'll play a short video in a moment. For now, for me personally, things come to my mind when I hear impact investing. First and foremost, in impact investing, the investors are looking at their financial engagement from an impact point of view, meaning the most important thing is that the funding is supporting a described, anticipated impact of the organization, usually towards one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals instead of financial return. I think it is fair to say that it is a common understanding that profitability is a tool for impact entrepreneurs to be able to fulfill their goals, to grow, scale, and collaborate. Funding is a tool to achieve the goals, not to make a lot of money. The other way I'd like to look at it is from the distinction of exploit versus explore. Some of you may have heard of that. In many cases, we see the industry using money to exploit business cases, meaning the funds are being used to create as much profit as possible with a given amount of financial investment. Explore, on the other hand, is a way for investors to produce an outcome that is clearly described in the vision of the organization, but may not be foreseeable in the quantity yet. The explore mindset brings the attitude to search for innovations to improve current conditions. The focus is on the quality of the products and services in alignment with the Sustainable Development Goals. And here we go, and I'll show you the agenda of today's session. Short and crisp, we will start with a couple of introductions so you know who is talking to you. In the beginning, later we will talk together, and we will hear 3 impulses from our panelists, followed by a discussion about it, because we think your opinions, your questions is all what this session is about. We want to give answers and provide advice and backstage information. So this helps you in your own achievements. I'm going to have a question and answers, and we'll finish with closing statements from the panelists to see if we have learned something. So with this, Sarah, over to you. Who are you?
Yeah, Thank you so much for the intro and the invitation to be a panelist today. I would love to give you a short overview about my business or what I'm doing. I'm from Germany. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur on the one hand. On the other hand, I work in the sustainable finance business, especially in the impact investing business, and I'm an impact investing business developer. And especially work for the European Social Innovation and Impact Fund. So it's a fund with the EU Commission to support early stage startups with the financial support on one hand, on the other hand, with the knowledge of financial readiness. So these are two main points, and it's absolutely needed to enable people how to start the impact business or how to create impact business models in general, and how is reporting or the measurement of the KPIs to represent this to important investors, to show, hey, we are impact company, we are impact entrepreneurs, and so you have more opportunities to be or to get a better fund or funding. A little bit my background, to make it really short. I'm from media studies and also from business administration, and furthermore I studied business psychology, so to see how the market, international market psychologies, how market movements and also behaviors are changing and are running. And on the other hand, it's from Cambridge Business Sustainability Management for Leadership, also in the financial businesses, to create impact. And I supported the UN with the Agripreneurs Committee to develop the SDGs in Geneva, to implement the SDGs in the private sector. So it's a full range of one hand or one perspective from the business growth, and the other hand from the politicians, from the regulatory perspective, and of course from the implementation in the private sector. So I'm happy. It's a pleasure. Looking forward to meet you all now in this session. And I think Amber is the next, or to hand over.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I can go next. My name is Amber Riedel. I'm Canadian, but living in Berlin. I like to describe myself as like the outsider looking in. I'm a startup founder, an investor, and a climate activist. I studied also political science, and I had my first job in an NGO in Berlin, Transparency International, and went on into this startup space here in Berlin and founded a large DIY crafting platform called Makerist. I ran Makerist with my co-founder over 7-8 years until we sold it to a large textile e-commerce seller, like a seller of fabrics and wools, in 2020. And from there, I had the classic journey of a startup entrepreneur who sells their company. So I went, let's say, through a crisis of purpose and really intensified my climate journey from there. My experience with sustainability at Makerist was related to the topic of sustainability in fashion. We looked very much at what the makers movement and what our community, our strong community of sewers and knitters could do to support sustainability in fashion. In the beginning, when we were a digital platform for patterns and for videos, it was quite easy to look at the topic of sustainability. And later, when we started to offer supplies and fabrics on the website, it got more difficult, because then, this is what I'll talk to you guys about today, we would actually need to look more at how sustainable the fabrics were being produced, where we were sourcing them from, the practices of the suppliers, looking at the different practices along the entire value chain or the entire supply chain. I'm still looking at that from the outside. And in the meantime, my climate journey progressed to look more into corporate social responsibility with the online learning school Terado, the interpersonal sustainable development goals, how we need to learn as people and as humans in order to have the right skills and competencies to take on this work. And working with climate change makers, which is a political advocacy group, trying to use my voice just as a regular citizen to push policy in the right direction. So today I'm going to give you this outsider perspective, what I can offer from, let's say, not being an expert in something, but having an outside view from a lot of different areas.
Okay, now it's me. I'm Ingo. It's quite funny because I was born in Berlin, so there is something that we have in common. But nowadays I don't live in Berlin, but I also work in Germany, and we established Kapakura, which is not only a startup but also a fast-growing investor in sustainable social businesses. My wife Ina and I founded Kapakura 4 years ago because we thought that there is a large need to invest into fast-growing businesses which are change makers. And we love the idea to change the world for a better. Kapakura invests in startups in the early stage, in the domains of education, healthcare, and environment. And we invite everybody to invest alongside with us, starting with as little as 1,000 euros, because we want to democratize this business, because we think this is something that will definitely change the world also for better. Yeah, that's my perspective, and I'm happy to discuss the do's and don'ts from the funding perspective.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah, Amber, and Ingo. I did forget to introduce myself, and I'm very sorry for that. I'll do that right now and quick. My name is Rainer Dunkel. I live in Germany, and we have founded broadcast.org as a social entrepreneurship organization to increase and raise the visibility of social entrepreneurs by media. And we are building a platform to do that. We are also developing television and event formats to do that. So much from my side. Next, we will show you the video that I was talking about earlier about impact investing.
The economy wasn't created to make money. The economy was created to add value to the collective. So you can say that the world is in need of some serious shifting. And since you're watching this video, you're probably aware of this too. And you recognize the need for change. This is a story about choice. And this might be a story about your future plans. Impact investing. According to research by the Financial Times, the amount of capital invested in impact has doubled over the last 5 years. But what is it exactly? The most accepted definition for impact investing is investing with the specific objective of achieving positive social and/or environmental impact as well as financial return. So a positive impact and financial return. Just to make you a bit more familiar with the term, let's place it on a scale with other sorts of investments. On the right, you see traditional investing. This is what we call investing for the sole purpose of financial return, with no impact objectives. With responsible investing, we filter out harmful investments like weapons or tobacco, for example. When you're into sustainable investing, you invest in companies that take into account environmental, social, and governance criteria. Think water and energy efficiency, or an apparel company with strong policies protecting fair labour conditions, still with a focus on the financial side of the investments. Starting here, the philosophy behind the investment slowly moves from do no harm to intentionally do good, which is the essence of impact investing. But before we dive into this, let's finish telling you what it's not. With venture philanthropy, you invest in social purpose organizations, taking high financial risks in order to drive the organization's impact. Traditional philanthropy is grant-based funding of social purpose organizations, often simply donating money to create maximum impact. Now, impact investing. Impact investing is not an asset class. It is an investment approach across all asset classes, themes and geographies, and has a full range of risks and returns. For example, impact investments can range from a direct private equity investment in a fintech company providing access to finance to underserved populations, to a loan supporting sustainable agricultural business, or from a note subscription in a renewable energy fund to a share purchase in a sustainable forestry fund. As we said, it's about intentional impact and financial returns. When looking at the impact side, one can ask, what's your taste of good? Where do you want to create impact? This can be in services or in products provided, such as building solar-powered lamps for developing regions, developing natural washing products, or producing healthy foods. Impact can also be made in the way businesses are run, or even on multiple levels, such as safeguarding the mining of fair raw materials, honest working conditions, waste management, or offering jobs to those who have less opportunities. Such front-runner companies aim to change the entire industry they work in. Financial profit can be made in countless proven and unproven business cases. So, as with traditional investing, deciding which business models have potential is art, science, and all the fun of investing at the same time. When considering to start impact investing, there are a few things we can advise. Decide on what you care about and what your strategy is to approach this. Carve out some funds to experiment and learn from experienced peers, professionals, and intermediaries. Then, just get started. Don't wait. Environmental challenges and social structures need attention now more than ever. So consider that you're doing this for the generations to come. Like we said, this is a story about choice. You can choose where your money creates the impact we need for tomorrow's world.
Next, we want to give you a couple of perspectives. Ingo, Sarah, and Amber will share perspectives with you on the funding side before we then start into a discussion. So please, Amber, would you want to start?
Sure. So,
that was
Amber wants.
Go ahead, Ingo. That's totally
okay.
Fine.
So, you know, when I meet social entrepreneurs and change makers, they often start to excuse. And when I meet other impact investors doing in their fundraising process, they also excuse. And they all excuse why is their financial return lower than it is a case for classical investments. And honestly, I don't get it. I mean, there's so much great stuff you can talk about. There's so much great stuff you can speak about on the impact side. How many kids have a better education? How many people have access to a better healthcare system? How many tons of carbon have you reduced or compensated? And there are so great stories. And on the other hand, when I met classical investors, they never excuse. They never excuse why do they not invest in crime and sex and war and all that nasty things, even so there is an opportunity to have even a higher return of investment. So it means that the money givers, they are not only looking for the highest possible financial return. Even today, even those who are not investing only for the financial return, they have their inner North Star, they have their inner compass, and the majority of the people on the planet, they honestly want a kind of impact investment. And this is a large opportunities. So my call is independent if you are fundraising because you have a business, or fundraising because you want to fund. Stop to excuse. Don't allow that bullshit in your in your portfolio. Just tell great stories, and I'm absolutely sure that this is the biggest thing that you can start. Tell others about your stories. Tell others about your idea, what you're doing. There's something going on when I speak with other people, and they seem that a lot of people are saying, well, I do impact investing, yes, and I do impact investment also. And honestly, it's sometimes like teenage love, yeah, you know. Everybody is saying I'm doing it, but nobody knows exactly how it works. And the second thing that I would like to add is, when you have not started impact investing today, just do it. It's a lot of fun.
All right, Amber, you want to go next?
Okay, so first of all, I am also an investor in Ingo's fund, so I can I can start by saying that it's very easy to take the first step. I thought about some things which Ingo said as well, and then a bit more theoretical. So for me, it seems like we set ourselves this time frame to reach the Sustainable Development Goals, and I don't think we've made very much progress. And why is that? So for me, sustainability, when I was in my business, was very difficult to pin down. What do we actually mean by sustainability? What is a sustainable business? What aspects of sustainability are we talking about? Do we mean financially sustainable? Do we mean, related to which one of the 17 development goals? It's very broad. It's difficult to explain. It's difficult to measure. Business doesn't like that. They like numbers. Finally, what Ingo also mentioned, let's say classic business and classic investment is oriented by definition towards high growth. This is how, and maybe not why it exists, but this is what it's become. Having every quarter more growth, the companies that can show the most growth, the highest growth, those are the winners. And sustainability doesn't align well with that. I don't want to say that it's not a good investment. It's just a longer term investment. So this is somehow the second point that I want to make. And we as a society, business and investors are not very good at thinking at long-term investments and patient capital. But because the things we have to solve are so big, that's what we actually need to do. So I haven't heard very much happening on the Sustainable Development Goals, to be honest, in the business world or in the media. But what I have heard everywhere all the time is climate. And climate is part of the Sustainable Development Goals, but it seems to have overtaken them. And this is what I want to look at from the outside. Why is that? For me, when I want to answer that question, I think about it from my own perspective, where I am Canadian, growing up with all the resources, free education, free healthcare, natural resources all over, and basically the same situation in Germany where I live now. I've never experienced, and most of the people in my circles have never experienced a lot of the things that we're trying to solve in the Sustainable Development Goals. We've never experienced poverty or water scarcity or land degradation. These are things that we can imagine theoretically, and it, of course, we as humans, we want to solve those problems, but it feels very far away because we've not experienced it firsthand. On the other hand, now I make the connection to climate. In the last years, I think everyone, regardless of where they live, has had some sort of experience with climate change, with warming, and let's say taking it one step further, even some sort of climate-related extreme weather events. So this was something that I experienced last year in the Pacific West Coast in Canada with the forest fires, also in Greece with the forest fires. Like I thought twice in 1 year, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and just become a climate activist. And what I've seen for businesses is that for these few reasons, first of all, sustainability is by definition very large, hard to pin down. We don't have a lot of experience, let's say, with the human related sides of sustainability. And we've had this experience with weather. Sustainability has come to mean carbon. It's come to mean climate change and becoming carbon neutral. And in investing, this is very hot industry right now. Let's say carbon accounting. Why? Because it's very measurable. It's math. You can make graphs. You can say how much you're improving. You can say how much you're reducing. Analysts love it. Finance people love it. And it's very easy to explain to customers and to investors. Now I get to back to the Sustainable Development Goals. Despite the focus on climate, how can we bring them back in? What we've seen from climate is that there are no side effects, that everything is in effect, and it affects us all equally. Companies that say they want to be net zero in terms of carbon emissions would have to go through a pretty complicated greenhouse gas protocol. The greenhouse gas protocol would divide their carbon emissions into 3 different areas: scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Gets a little bit scientific or complex, but it's very quick. Scope 1 emissions are the result of the direct production that the business does to make its product or service. Scope 2 emissions are related to things like building heating, so where your office is, the heating of your office, or deliveries. Scope 3 emissions are all sources not within the organization's scope 1 and scope 2, and they're often broken down into downstream and upstream emissions. That means everything that happens until you get the materials to make your products, and then everything that happens after the customer has received your products, what they do with it. And this scope 3 is the part of, I'd say, business responsibility that we're not used to taking into consideration and not used to factoring into our analysis. So if I would think of it in the fashion industry, like from the textiles perspective, I said before, I'm coming from this handicraft textiles perspective. In scope 1 and scope 2, we would talk about, the electricity that we use at the office, our heating, retail, the emissions from our delivery services. But if I look into scope 3, we have to go all the way into raw material extraction. So how is, let's say, cotton cultivated, extracted, how much water is used, how is it washed, how is it heated, raw material processing to make like cotton of raw materials into yarn, turning it into fabric, and then shipping it over to wherever we're going to sell it from. This is the heavy lifting of the carbon accounting. And in order to get carbon neutral, to be able to say, I have no carbon emissions as a company, you have to get rid of all of those emissions as well. So there's somehow 2 ways you can do this. You may have heard already of carbon offsetting. So you can buy carbon removal credits from people that are doing projects that get carbon out of the atmosphere. So they're doing good work. You can support their good work by buying these offsets and sort of getting rid of your carbon. There's a new way of doing this, which I've stumbled across in my studies with Tara Doe. It's called insetting. And it's kind of a new term, but if you Google it, you will find like quite some references already. And insetting looks at doing carbon offsetting, but doing it specifically through projects that relate to the own value chain. That means in the example of this textile production, if that was my business, I would look at doing insetting projects specifically in the raw material extraction of cotton, specifically in the processing of cotton into yarn and materials, and specifically into the finishings or the dyings of those materials, making sure the factories are using are moving away from coal, they're moving towards more renewable energies, there's maybe moving from wet processing to dry processing. That would be a new way of looking at that would be a new way of looking at carbon accounting and being able to connect it with the SDGs. Because let's say if I'm investing into my value chain, if I'm investing into projects that affect also my suppliers in other parts of the world, it is going to have positive effects on their lives, and it's going to have positive effects. It's going to be able to translate back into certain areas of the Sustainable Development Goals. I've found some other good examples in the internet. For example, Nespresso has also been doing some insetting projects. By what insetting is generally done in agriculture or areas of sourcing raw materials. So ways to sequester carbon and get more carbon out of the atmosphere. Nespresso does it by planting trees, okay? But trees that are local to the region in the same areas where they would generally get their coffee beans from, and they can directly say which SDGs it relates to. So they say it also supports no poverty, it supports zero hunger, it supports responsible consumption, climate action, and life on land. I think this is getting a little bit long. If I would just end it by saying, like, what are a couple of do's? I would say, do link any work that you're doing in climate to the Sustainable Development Goals as well. Do think about linking it directly into your own value chain, because that can make a more resilient business, a stronger business for you down the pipeline. Do connect it to your scope 3 emissions. Do look for other partners who could also benefit from financing those type of projects, and do think of a longer time frame for investing. Think of your investing as patient capital.
All right. Thank you very much, Amber. Sarah, you are next. You brought some slides you want to share in a couple of moments, but you want to start with without your slides first.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Ingo. Thank you, Amber. Super interesting perspectives, and I would like to go ahead first of all to all of you who are in the startup business or in the social entrepreneur world. I want to give you hope that the business is growing, and that a lot of people are fighting for more attention and more science-based development. And my impulse today is from also two perspectives. On the one hand, I want to see, or we have to face that we need this change. On one hand, from the enterprise perspective, we need a big transformation from existing companies that have to make a big change, and it's a major challenge to create sustainability or to implement the SDGs in a regular running business, and also in a global enterprise, for example. And I work for some or for global companies to be a consultant, and was a sustainability consultant. And I was laughing, and I want to give you this example because they told me, yes, Sarah, it's so nice that you help us because we are so slow. We are so super slow. We really need sustainability, we need a change, we need the implementation of the SDGs, we need to do it in the operational processes. How can we do it? You are, as a freelance or as a consultant, you are like a jet ski. And I was laughing about that because they were right. I know the enterprise process, it's slow. So many people have to discuss. And I said, yes, okay, we need solutions. We need them fast. And I think this is a big challenge for really big companies. And this is an opportunity for all startups and for all social entrepreneurs. And this is the other hand, also where I'm coming from the startup perspective, to be fast. You can be fast, you can be able to make really fast changes and to implement all sustainability rules or tools or whatever your idea is actually into your business. And so some are startups with a sustainable focus, but some companies or startups are in a funding process, and they have the main focus on impact topics. And I think this is the jet ski on the market, and I really love jet skis with good ideas, and big companies are learning from that. So, and the opportunity is to be faster than big companies, to be a solution for big companies to make your exit, also to see where are the bigger enterprises really with a pain point, where's the need of new solutions for bigger industries. But the main point, and this is what I want to have my direction on, is the CSR as well. So there are a lot of regulatory points that are coming now. So this is a CSRD, so the Corporate Social Responsibility Directive. So a lot of companies have to report now what are they doing for the sustainability. And also, and this is another point, the CSRDD. So a lot of acronyms in this world, but it's easy to understand because it means that the view or the transparency of companies is getting more and more in focus of the politicians and also of all stakeholders and of all investors. So all investors are looking now, or in latest in some years, what is a company, what I invest in, doing for our nature, for our planet, for the supply chain. So this is what Amber was explaining, amazing, the scope 1, 2, 3, to see, okay, how can we reduce our CO2 or how can we make a CO2 removal to have a benefit in our scope 3. And these are all points. This is a process, what the company want or need, and also the investors want to see. For startups, it's a perspective that you are maybe a supplier or you are doing something. It's always good to have a transparent supply chain to reduce the scope 3, for example, and to provide solutions for that. And on the other hand, you have to know, and this is now for your core business, are you an impact company? Are you a social entrepreneur? I'm working now since a couple of years with social entrepreneurship and also with the impact investing, and the most CEOs or founders told me, I don't know if I'm a social entrepreneur, if it's impact what I'm doing. How can I see it? And that is, we call it the financial readiness. To get to this point where you know, okay, what, and this is in a role, what want an investor or a stakeholder see? What are KPIs? What are needed that explain? Wow, this is really an impact entrepreneur. And we are want to give you this hope and also the support, of course, to create your business exactly with these KPIs that investors see or investor can see. Okay, this is a CEO or a founder. He knows what he's doing and how to measure. And I want to jump in the slides now for a short, really short deep dive to see on the first page exactly Social enterprise and the importance. This is what we have done with our fund, with the European Social Innovation and Impact Fund, to find companies with social impact, and it's in all businesses. So you can be in a fintech, you can be in education, healthcare, renewable, or food industries. It doesn't matter. Make a proof if you can say, hey, I'm an impact company. And social businesses get a lot of benefits and also have a lot of opportunities to be supported by official programs like the EU Commission, what we work with, for example. So make a proof of this to find your KPIs. And you have all these challenges. So maybe we can jump one slide further. And this is the problem, what a lot of you or the people in the social enterprise or in the social entrepreneurship world are faced with is, okay, we have it, but we are not visible on the market. We don't know the requirements, what we do or what we have to do, what are the KPIs, and it's the investment readiness, what I told you. This is big issues. Then it's a risk for an investor to jump in. Okay, is it really transparent? How is the reporting? How is the future business case and forecasts? Due diligence, is it a company, a viable system model, for example? And also the afford, of course, to the problem is for a startup side, how to manage all these KPIs, doings and learnings, and also how to, for investor perspective, investor to make the controlling. And I think so there are a lot of funds out there and also supports to apply in a fund, or like Ingo said, on a maybe it's a, we had, and now it's closed. It's a alternative investment fund for professional investors. This is closed now, but there are a lot of platforms like Ingo's for smaller or for long-term running systems or long-term project supports that exactly give you the visibility, a stage where you can show and promote your startup and where you get some help how to create KPIs. And on the last page or slide, you see how we make the measurement. And this is also one point which you can directly put into your business model, is to create a theory of change or a EOOI model. So it's about to think about what are the costs, what is input, what do you need at all, what is the output, what is coming through, and what the outcome, of course, for a bigger stage, also for the society, or maybe for of course the natural, what are the outcomes of your business. And then at the end, more or less impact or social value is to make a measurement, maybe how many lives are solved at the end because your product provides a super solution against poverty or against bacteria in water solutions. So we have Helios, for example, we won a SIA award with them. And there is a solution with a UV water filter system, easy, made or with help from the sunshine, regular sun. A lot of kids are saved, and they don't drink contaminated water from bacteria. So this is how you really can name your goals and make a measurement in context of statistics. Okay, you see, this is a global statistic, so you would bring a solution in this point. And I think if you implement the theory of change, you have and this is how to meet the investors and what do they want to see. You can represent them. Hey, I have a really good solution for a global issue, for a big problem what we are all faced with, and this is an official measurement how you can see how the world gets benefit from my company, from my startup enterprise, whatever. So, and this is how you can start your communication. You go out, you have a story that you can tell about your sustainability and your impact to the world. And yeah, I think this is two perspectives. You could be faster than big companies and use this opportunity and make your finance readiness to be visible for impact investors and to jump into the community of impact investors and funds.
Thank you, Sarah, for this input. I want to dive into our panel discussion now and already start everybody inviting to come up with your questions that you may have to the panel, to any one of us, so we can get them answered for all of you. I'll look in the chat and see what comes up and pick them out, so you can go on stage and ask your questions. I'll start with my question. So I have learned now from Ingo, Sarah, and Amber. So Ingo, you think it's fun to invest in impact, and Sarah, you say make sure your organization is funding ready. And Ava, you say make sure your organization is supporting the SDGs. Now, how can I support the SDGs, be impact funding ready, and have fun? Who has the secret sauce? Who want to start? How do I do that if I want to search for funding and want to grow with external help?
For sure, there are outside many targets, target companies, target projects. However, some are more risky than others. And so I would suggest to invest in several targets, not only one thing that is heartwarming and you like it. That's more like giving money away. From an investor perspective, it is smarter to invest in several projects with specific outcome, like an SDG outcome, quality education, for example, or clean water, and invest in several projects so you can hedge the risks of the investment. And hedging risks is helping you to have fun at the end of the day, because you do not lose so much money when something maybe doesn't work out so good as you expected first. Second, I suggest to do some hands-on experience. Not only invest money, but also ask the companies, the projects, how can I help you? What can I do in order to bring you forward? And this is a twofold positive impact for your capital investment. On the one hand, you understand better what you are doing, and you understand better how you can bring in your own opportunity. And the second thing is, it's again, you hedge your capital from 100% lose by bringing in your specific expertise and your network. This is what I suggest in order to bring the specific secret sauce in the game. So short term, the specific the secret sauce is you.
Thank you, Ingo. Can you explain to everybody what is hedging?
Oh, hedging means easy spoken, you reduce the risk of losing your money by specific financial operations. And in this specific term, you hedge by investing your money in several projects. And when, let's say, one project has an opportunity of 50% to die. So two different projects, they only have a 25%, 50 by 50% opportunity of a total loss. And 10 projects, they only have an opportunity of less than 0.1% of the total money lose. That's the idea of the so-called indexing. So bringing money into as many projects as possible, which all support the same investment purpose.
All right, thank you very much. I want to go to our first question. Sharon, you have a question that you just put in the chat. You want to turn on your video and speak your question. And if you want to start by who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing, that would be awesome. Thank you. Sharon Rudy.
I'm happy to unmute, but I really cannot turn on my video. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a physician. I work with a large American corporation that's starting a center. And this particular center is wanting to address global malnutrition. But I'm a little frustrated with them because they are, I think they're going to go a very traditional route of becoming a kind of an international donor. And I'm trying to convince them to do something a little different. So I know very little about what you're deeply knowledgeable on, but I think that impact investing is a viable strategy for them. So I just was curious about if anyone here has worked with large corporations. They're well funded, they have a vision, they have a new CEO. So I'm curious.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in just for a short. It's a big question, and I know it's a big topic. The consultant see or how to consult impact investors, because upskilling and education is actually one of the biggest topics that we are also working on. And we had some ideas, or we are doing this in some points. Therefore, so there are different opportunities, and also from the knowledge, what kind of impact investor circle could it be? So maybe it's easier. I don't know if it's yeah, it could be easier to make a deep dive, Sharon, in personal chat. But I think just to give you a short overview, would be interesting to know, is it for a special scene? So is it just tech investors, impact investors, or is it a general overview of all impact investing fields? And then to see what kind of investors need this education, or how to train them. Is it like public, or is it just a corporation that makes wants to create a spin-off? Or also in setting, we had this word today, and to create something internal new venture that creates impact, or that builds a new company with this impact education. So there are a lot of ways how to start with this. And then, of course, a consultancy in what is needed from the finance readiness, impact measurement, the transparency and the controlling, and also then the CSRD, what is with the SBTIs. These are the science-based target initiative. It's actually from the States, one of the biggest target for all companies, yeah, it's like the commitment for 2025. So there are a lot of points where we can jump in, but I think it would be easier to get a little bit more specific to get a good consultant.
Got it. I will take your name down and the information and share that with them.
Great. Thank you.
Sharon, we also,
I hope it helped.
Sharon, we also discuss sometimes with larger corporations, whether they are sometimes clients for our startups, and this can be a starting point for impact investing, sometimes just because they want to understand how they can work together with social enterprises. And so if my expertise is of need for your specific purpose, don't hesitate to contact me. You can find me on LinkedIn.
Could you all put your links or your websites in the chat so I could write it down and look it up and share it with them? I think each of you has a different, this is a wonderful panel, by the way. Each of you has a different type of expertise, and I can see a need. I could see a use for almost everybody in their work. They're really trying to figure out how to do good and manage their for-profit history. And they have $100 million that they've dedicated to this in 10 years. So I do think that it's a huge opportunity to get this company on a different type of path. But it's a cultural change. There's some internal conflict, but they have dedicated this money. It is available, and they do have some important champions, including the CEO. So there you go.
All right, thank you very much. Now I'm going to our next question. Franz, you want to speak up? Are you from Germany by any chance? Franz Gomez.
Sorry, not really. It's my mother
Okay.
that like German names.
Welcome.
I'm from Bolivia. Thank you. Yeah, my question was about how risky these impact investments business are compared to the traditional ones. You talked about being longer term than usual. But in terms of risk, how riskier are they?
Ingo,
my opinion would be, I don't see it as more risky. I would go back to what Ingo said, just like the returns are maybe not as high growth as you would expect. My opinion, though, is that we're leaving the period of high returns in short periods of time, because we're entering, let's say, this period of inflation, and we're also entering a period of increased regulation around really around everything. Like I see in the next years we'll have like really increased regulation about reporting, but also around pricing for carbon, pricing for natural minerals, for things from nature that we've been taking for free. They will have a price. Labor will get more expensive. The labor costs will even out around the world. There are companies that are already doing this that say, like, for example, Unilever. He's the CEO of Unilever is giving a talk here too, and his book was amazing. And he mentioned that all Unilever equalized employees' pay grades around the world. So there are things that are coming, and I see them coming really faster and faster. And I think impact investing is, in my opinion, sort of getting on the right side of history, but also getting on the right side of finance. So getting into the good companies early, because the bad companies will get weeded out or will get watered down financially also in the medium term.
So I would say impact investment is not more or less risky. It has a different risk structure. For example, a coal mine has the risk to be shut down because of ongoing political regulations. And this is something that won't happen in the near future for an impact startup. But an impact startup, compared to a conventional startup, maybe it takes longer because the founders are looking for more sustainable growth. And that means it can take longer until you find out, well, the whole thing is crappy. Honestly. Yeah? And but on the other hand, we have data for several thousand, almost 100,000 startups in our AI, and we see that that social enterprises, social startups, seem to be more successful, also have a lower death rate than normal startups. So it is twofold. On the one hand, it is risky. On the other hand, you have opportunities, and this is not only financial opportunities. To be precise here, our own portfolio has an IRR of 77.7 of 22.7% over the last years, which is quite good, even compared to conventional investment. And this is impact investment. So when we speak about the academic downside of lower returns, you need to be aware it can be on a very high level.
Great.
Yeah. Maybe
Thank
I
you.
just finish with the two more ideas, yes, or the input. From the early stage perspective, how risky it is. So there are two ways. So the important thing is the due diligence, how to make the proof that the company that you are investing in is really viable, or have the proof of concept. So this is, it takes time, but if you are from investor perspective and you want to invest in an early stage startup, it is do it in a fund with a bigger portfolio where it doesn't make so much risk because it's diverse, or or find someone who could help to make the really good due diligence if you want to focus on one early stage startup. So our experiences that we have in our fund, we will have around about 40 early stage startups. And there is a support from we have a shared risk security system with the EU Commission. And this is how it works in some funds or some financial architectures, how to implement a security system that if the one company goes down in the insolvent, or it could no longer exist, there's a security or like not say insurance, but the official hands will jump in to cover exactly the lost. And these are mechanisms. I know the governance and a lot of countries are working on how to make systems that it's easier and more motivation for investors to jump into the impact investing. So there's one, if you do it alone or with a fund, you can make a proof if there's if the concept is really good, or otherwise maybe if there are solutions with this system integrated in the financial fund investing architecture.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
I'll pick the next question. Ingo just answered one of them already in the chat. Matt, you have a question.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So it's Matt from the Catalyst 2030 Secretariat. I was just curious, on behalf of many of our members who are systems change social entrepreneurs, if any of the panel have any advice for investing in those types of innovations, because we know often systems change approaches can take 5, 10, even more 15 years before you start seeing outcomes. So just wondered if you had any practical experience of navigating the complexities of that.
Matt, are you talking about the goals that the investors may have in terms of what they would like to see as an outcome with their funding, and how that can be achieved in terms of being
absolutely okay. Of course, but and then also that's set against timeline expectations as well.
Tough question. Who wants to answer?
So in impact investment, Emma said that investors they are quite often willing to wait longer for the financial return than in conventional investments. That's for sure. However, when you speak about system change, 5 or 10 years is quite optimistic. let's maybe think of 20 years or something. And then you need quite forward-thinking investors. And my personal observation is that family offices, or even better, family enterprises, so business owners who own a family enterprise, they think not only in decades, but on also in generations. And they are perfect partners for that. They sometimes think, well, how will our business look like in 50 or 100 years? Where do we want to be? And these are good partners for really long-term changes. And governments are very good partners for that. And foundations are great partners for that, because they have a long-term purpose that does not change with the next with the next election of the CEO.
Matt, I have no idea how to also answer it from my personal perspective. I think a startup that is looking for funding will be with the funding going into a phase of stages, different phases of their development as an organization. And you can sort them up by saying they build their product or service, then they collaborate, and then they scale. That's a typical scenario. I believe that in every single phase of them, you need partners or resources, and every phase needs different resources and partners. I, as an investor, would look at the candidate and saying, who are you working with in the individual phases? How can they help you? And specifically, if you are asking for speed of scale, the scale phase is when they have collaborated, they have established the market, the product, the services. How do they scale? Who do they scale with? Because typically, you cannot do that alone. You always need some form of partnership or services or collaborators to do that with you. And if that is a viable partner, then you can actually talk to them and saying, how can I help you as the partner of my target organization to make that successful? Sarah, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can jump in. From our perspective or from my experience, it's also, it's really a business of networking and to be in a network. So you see, if it's maybe Ingo, I also agree and make my thumbs. So a really good answer about that. Family offices, family businesses, institutional enterprises are also really a good support. And also the networks that are in your company or in your country or in your city, to see how they can support maybe from the science side and also from the financial perspective, that they have a lot of programs that they can link to, or they are already in some investor contacts to say, okay, we can help you. So I think the impact community in general, and this is what I also love in this panel, that it's really cooperative and it's not a goal to be a one-man show. It's really a supporting system, because we have all the same goal. We want to support, or we want to create more impact. And if you and Ingo's fund or a platform, for example, it's so amazing for a lot of smaller companies. They get a stage. I'm more with the professional investors or institutional investors. From the other hand, now our fund is closed. So, but we are all working on the same goal and have a stage next to each other. And everyone, if you ask someone, you will get a great answer. So this is my experience, and this is how I know exactly the network, or also Amber from an investor perspective. So you can get more contacts, of course. So I think this could definitely help to jump in one network, and then the show will begin.
Yeah, it's a life cycle of the projects. In the very first beginning, they start with sometimes grassroots developments and business angels, maybe like Amber, maybe like me, and sometimes they need further funding. Then they go to crowdfunding platforms or smaller investors like Kapakura. Then they need larger amount of money to scale up, and then they go to funds like Zara's fund. And so it's really we need to work hand in hand, and as we as players in the ecosystems understand that and want the success of the projects, it is just meaningful to work together and work hand in hand. Fully agree.
All right. Matt, are you happy with the answer? Okay. Ludmila, you want to raise your question again and hear other voices and answers about finding allies in the NGO world? I think Ludmila is no longer with us. All right. Any further questions? If not, I would go to the next step and inviting Sarah, Amber, and Ingo for closing statements. Who wants to start? Amber?
Yeah, I like what Sarah and Ingo were saying, and I think that ties in as well to the question of Ludmila about NGOs and startups. What I think is unique when you talk about impact investing is that it is more of a network and it is more collaborative than in investing in a, let's say, traditional high growth business or high growth startup, where the pressure is very high, there's very high competition, there's a lot of secrecy. When we look into the area of impact investing, it's more organized, I think, around common values, also around the perspective that we all, it's more about collaboration, it's more about working together to do this heavy lift, and sharing the knowledge that we have. So I think this is a great space to be in. And to be honest, it ties in also to your question from before, Rainer, how can you invest, have fun, and do good?
All right, Sarah.
Yeah. So to make it really short, the essence of my experience and also the panel from today, it's what we said, it's all about network and to support each other. So I work in the investment industry for creating new and innovation funds and to create the next innovative impact investing fund. And now we are in a big period of learning. We just last week, we closed our last European Social Innovation and Impact Fund. Long word, but we had a lot of learnings. What is needed from an investor perspective. We learned what is the amount what investors want to give in. We learned what startups need or how we can find new impact startups to support them. So I think it's a learning journey for everyone and to make a big upskilling from everyone who is already in the business or in his business. And to make a really good education, or so that we are teachers. Every one of us is a teacher, and to provide the best help what is possible. And we think this is what is needed to make hope, to be fast, and to be collaborative. I called it the ice flow model. We just had a conversation with a political partner some hours ago this morning, and it doesn't make sense if we are all on our own ice floe and the world is going down. So we need to collaborate, we need to find together, and we need to understand each other. We need to understand how our investor is speaking. It sounds like a different language, but it's the same. We have to listen to the startups. Because this is another language, but it's still the same. And we want to, or I think, let's bring these voices together. And bring really fast, easy tools to entrepreneurs that they can, that they are enabled, or to find tools to enable yourself, how measurement and how the impact stage can become yours in an official way. And I think this is one point. Yeah.
So my summary is a project, when you fundraise for a project, you can go through different stages. This can be, you're looking for a grant, maybe you're looking for investors, and maybe you're looking for huge investors, or even super large investors. And don't underestimate the size of your idea. And it is normal that you can start very small and grow very big. There are many, many players in the ecosystem. Like we have seen here today, 3 to 4 different players. But as you have seen, we can all work together. And but as you have heard, there were questions, and we all had ideas how to support each other. And we are approachable. And so my call to action is the same thing that I started today. Let's stop excusing and let's start doing.
Thank you, Ingo. So I have learned from all of these conversations that investors need help in doing so, in investing in this new field, because it's not something we have done for many years now. And there are places to go where they can find help, as well as social entrepreneurs can go for help if they're seeking money. I have learned that impact investing could be fun. I personally think it is fun if the impact investing side offers the opportunity to get to know to the people personally who they invested, and make that and make a bond with them, rather than having just an item on the paper. I think we have learned that social entrepreneurs should definitely work with a lot with NGOs, as many as they can go, because NGOs are there for doing that. A lot of them are nonprofit organizations, and a lot of them are seeking that collaboration with social entrepreneurs because that's why they exist, many of them. And we have learned that this entire topic of funding the impact investing is a learning journey. We learn by doing so. We do not learn by sitting on the table and figuring out how it should work or could work. We can only figure it out by actually doing so and be part of the evolution. I am very grateful and honored that I have had you as my guests here on this panel, Amber, Sarah, Ingo. I can invite everybody to look out for the other sessions at Catalyzing Change Week that are going on right now. Thank you, Madalena, for your support in the background. I look forward to seeing all of you again very soon. All of you, you can watch this conversation that we just had soon on the YouTube channel of Catalyst 2030, and have a wonderful, great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You have a great day.